meeting you right where you are on your foster care journey. This is the Forgotten Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Forgotten Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Cabe, and I am so happy to be with you. If you are part of the foster care community, passionate about serving, or simply interested in learning more, we are here for you. In every episode of this podcast, you're going to hear from men and women who've experienced foster care to one degree or another. They may have grown up in the system, are caseworkers or foster parents, or other people who are here to bring you hope and encouragement. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe and share with a friend. Remember, you are not alone. I hope you enjoy the Forgotten Podcast. Well, Todd and Gretchen, it is a great joy to have you on the show today. I know that you guys have been married for 27 years. That is correct, right?
That's right.
That's huge, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you've been foster parents for 10 years. And so we're going to talk a lot about your journey. And I think we're going to hear a lot about how we have plans and God's plans are often different, right? That's been a lot of your journey. And so
Absolutely.
I want to start right there is you guys, your experience and your understanding and awareness of this world of foster care actually came from some really hard things that happened in your life. Can you just talk to us about what drew you into this world in the very first place?
Sure, absolutely. Todd, do you want to take it or you want me to take
No,
this
you
part?
go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. So our foster care journey began 20 years ago, actually, is when the Lord started putting it in our hearts. Our first daughter was stillborn at 40 weeks. Unfortunately, the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck, so we had no idea. We were taken aback. She was born December 12th. So we had her nursery ready, full presents under the tree. So we were just shocked. And honestly, I don't think either of us had ever thought about foster care before that point. Maybe Todd had, but we never talked about it jointly, if so. So we managed through that Christmas. Of course, it was, not a fun one, but we did do that. So the next year, a year later, we did not want any gifts. We were just still grieving, and grieving takes a long time. We still grieve sometimes 20 years later. So it's not a fast thing, and we didn't want gifts. So we asked our friends and family to join us in sponsoring some children at DSS. I'm not sure what led us to pick that. Todd, if you remember, of course, add in.
Well, at the time I was working as a police officer, and so I was had experience with DSS, Department of Social Services in South Carolina. So anyway, so I knew there was a great need, and so we asked our family to just work with us and sponsor some kids, in memory and loving memory of Ashlyn. And that grew and grew to my work, and it grew to a bunch of people wanting to be involved. And so that was our first real experience with DSS, and we really got to see, we had a really good contact at the time. And so not only were we buying and providing gifts for our individual kids, but they allowed us to deliver them and see more of the bigger picture of how it all works. And that really opened our eyes and burdened our heart to to what we would want to do someday.
Wow. So awareness truly led you to action, which is something we say a lot here at the Forgotten Initiative. Awareness leads to action. And was your baby your first child?
Yep, she was our first, first expected and perfect pregnancy, no issues, just totally unexpected. And of course, it's easy to think at the time why, but through it, I never doubted that it was God's will, because we had so many different blessings, which could be another whole story. But, the Lord would say, here's this blessing. I've got you. Here's the cost for her headstone from your Sunday school class. I've got you. When it was like, how are we going to pay, to do these, to take care of her in this way? So through it, it was just kind of like, okay, like, it really stinks, but we know the Lord still loves us And then it was day by day from that, step.
Yeah. And do you feel like what do you think it was that prompted you? I mean, I know it was, you had experienced loss. Todd, you had the experience of seeing kids in pain. Do you feel like it was just those culmination that really just prompted you to have people, and the fact, I guess, too, you said you didn't want anything for yourself. So it was just like, we just want to do something. Was that kind of the attitude? Is like, we just want to do something for others?
Right. We wanted to do something that counted, something significant. And for us, that was the absolute best way to remember Ashlyn and to not fill the hole that was in our heart, but to help us continue to work through and understand God's plan.
Yeah.
And like Gretchen was leading to, we knew clearly, we've both been Christians a long time and have seen God work numerous times. However, going through it is tough. We never doubted God. We completely trusted him. Didn't like the details of the situation.
Yeah.
It wasn't our plan, but it was God's plan, and we were able to trust that. So the idea to sponsor other kids and start getting involved in something, substantial and significant was really, it was the only way for us to go. That's where we needed to be. And as we told more people about it, more people wanted to be involved because it is significant. It is worthwhile. And it was good. We had a lot of people just dove in and supported other kids. In the meantime, they were kind of giving us a hug as they did that. So it was really, really good.
That is really beautiful.
That's what we wanted. We said, please do not buy us a gift. Like, there's nothing that we could receive that's going to ease this pain except if we could give it away. And so, of course, our family, our parents were like, they're like, we want to buy you something. Like, don't you buy us anything? Yeah. So, and they did. Like, they jumped on and embraced it, and it was awesome to see, everyone love on us through loving on children.
And through that, it became, instead of just a concept of kids in foster care or DSS, the system-wide, the way they do it here in South Carolina, you get the first name of the child, the age, and, and sex, and a little wish list. So it became individualized. It wasn't just a concept. Yeah. It became individualized, and for us and for everybody that became involved.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just wanted to give money, and Gretchen was able to just go out shopping and just, it was to buying for individuals. It wasn't buying for a concept. It was buying for individual kids, and that was really a big nudge for us along the way. Is that there are individuals out there. This is not just a.
It's not statistics. It's not statistics.
It's not statistics.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that, because that's how God opened my husband and my eyes to adoption and then later foster care. But it was like, you hear about the big crisis, right? You hear about the big problem, but the big problem is in numbers and it's in statistics. And it's like, that doesn't resonate so much with the heart. But then I remember seeing some of my friends bring home a child, one from Korea, and other places. And all of a sudden it's a person in front of you. It's a real life person. And it sounds like that's exactly what you guys experienced. And that, just as it led my husband and I to ultimately adopt our first son, it led you guys to enter the world of foster parenting. So how did that kind of go?
So over the time of when it was her first birthday, we were pregnant with our oldest daughter now, our second, daughter, but oldest living daughter, 8 months pregnant. And so we wanted to wait for them, her and any other biologicals that we had to be old enough. So basically we just wanted to wait a while. Like, this is in our minds. We want to help. Let's keep, sponsoring through the Christmases over the years. But we just wanted to wait enough to where our girls were the oldest in the house, so that they could, one, help us, because, it's a lot of work. And two, just let us know of issues. So, there were several, probably at least 5 years. They all run together after a while, but a long time of us waiting. And in between, I did have a friend that had a foster child, and she was like me, very type A. She wants things a certain way. She likes it neat. Her house was always clean. And I thought, look at that. Like, she's fostering, because I feel like I can't do that. Like, I cannot have a mess in my home. And I know that's insanity. And now if you see what kind of messes we have, the Lord humbles you on what you think you can and can't do. But anyway, I thought, I could do that. Like, if she could do it, we could probably do it. And so she told me once, I just looked at our table. We're a family of 5. She said we had an open seat. And I thought, we could take a kid in to sit there. And I just thought that was so cool that was her mentality. I was like, that's awesome. So we just had things over the years that, kept kind of leading us that way. Do you have anything to add, Todd?
Yeah, there was just numerous things. I'm trying to think of some examples. There was a bunch, but so many things that God kept reinforcing that this is where we need to be with kids that need adults to love them in their lives. And we worked with younger people at church, and we were both able to make closer contacts with some of the kids that had massive issues at home. Mm-hmm. So, God used so many events through those years to just reinforce the fact that this is where I'm tenderizing your heart for. Yeah. This is where I'm preparing you for. It was crystal clear. That's where we needed to be. It was just a process to get there.
Yeah, it often is. And I think it speaks a lot to the importance of other people in your space or your area, your sphere, of that are doing it, because it is, again, it takes away the statistics and it moves it to a personal. And then, just like you said, if she's type A and she can do it, then if she can, then maybe I can. I mean, I think, isn't that a beautiful way we as people help each other? It's like things are too big for us often, but if someone that I know and trust can do it, and then they might even be there as a support to me as well. It's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys moved into, at some point, when did you kind of recognize it was time to start the process?
So we have 2 biological daughters. So when our second one was about 5, we started saying, okay, like we can do this. We'll just always keep the parameters under our youngest one's age. So, we said we'll take 5 and under. And we tried to stay with girls only, just because we had all the girl stuff and didn't know what in the world to do with the boys. So that was kind of where we were.
How would you say that your plan lined up with God's plan?
You want me to jump in?
Yeah, I would say we're both shaking our heads. No, it did not.
Our plan did not line up with God's plan at all. Has happened several times. Anyway, so we went through the licensing process, and it's a process. But so our parameters were girls younger than 5 and no newborns, because we had already gone through the entire grieving process of losing a newborn. So again, God's plan was not ours, and the first call we got was for a newborn boy. Two X's right there. So we're like, why did you call us? I mean, we're new to this, so why do you not read our guidelines? But anyway, so initially we said no, so the next day they called back. DSS called back and said, we really need you. We're out of options. Just 2 weeks. If you can just give us 2 weeks, and that's all we need. Has some other options that just need to go through the process. So we said, okay, we can do anything in 2 weeks. And 8 months later,
I was going to ask.
8 months later, he went back to his birth family. Anyway, and we did go through the entire grieving process again of losing a newborn, which is fine. We did our job. We gave that boy a safe, loving home, and we loved on him, and we did our part. And it was phenomenal. He had a huge impact on us. Having him and going through that process really opened our eyes and, again, tenderized our hearts more for what the future would hold for us through this journey. That we would, had we not accepted him, and he taught us a lot. So it was good.
And it was kind of cool because, what you tell the Lord you're not doing. I'm not doing boys and I'm not doing newborns. The Lord's like, here you are. So his way is better. It's
And like you
tough.
Like you said too, it's his ways are better because he's actually doing something bigger than we know. Like he's not out to get us. He knows what we need, and he's developing us as people, right? And like you said, Todd, he's continuing to tenderize our heart for what's next. So sometimes we see his way that's different and we're like, you're bad, you're mean, you don't care. But that could be, nothing could be further than the truth, because he's actually saying, no, you need this. You need what I'm offering you. And I think that's such an amazing thing about our God. And we know that one of the primary goals for foster care is for kids to be reunited with their parents, if that's a possibility and if they're safe. But it is hard. Like you said, it's a grieving process for foster parents. And that's a very real part of foster care. How did that impact you, especially in light of the loss you had before? And how did it impact your daughters?
It had a significant impact on us. It was, I mean, a part of our heart left that day when he went back home, and we were glad for mentally, we were glad for the process to work the way it's supposed to, but in our hearts, we were devastated, as we should be. When these children, and I'll go ahead on this at a time, but you hear when we talk to other people about being foster parents, one of the primary responses is, I could never do that. It'd be too hard to let them go. It's not about you. It's not about you at all. It's about the kid, and you are supposed to become overly attached and just love that child like no other. God will get you through the other end. He will, it's going to hurt, but God's there for you. You just do your part. We lost a family member when he moved out, as the way it should be. Now, I don't say that as a negative. That's the way it should be. It hurt our girls. I say it hurt our girls.
It hurt their hearts just as
it hurt their
ours.
hearts, but it builds up and it taught them a lot. Taught us a lot as a family. One thing we've always done with our older girls and us, this has always been a team effort from day one, from when we started licensing to taking kids to whatever. It's been a team effort. And the original 4 have always had a veto power, I guess, for lack of a better word. When we talk before a child comes, we talk when a child leaves, and we talk when we're opening up for more kids. So we want to make sure everybody's prepared and recovered, for lack of a better way. And only once has one of our kids said, no, I need a little bit more time. And that was perfectly understandable. The child we had before was very close to her age. She wasn't here long, maybe less than a month.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, but they just developed such a strong bond. And this particular daughter just needed some more time. So we can wait. And it wasn't too long after that, she came to us and said, it's time. Let's open back up. And we did. So that's just been our concept, is it is an entire team effort. It does affect your entire family. When you take a child in, these other kids are missing part of mommy and daddy. There's only so much of mommy and daddy to go around. So they are willing, when you give them ownership in it, they become more willing to share our time, knowing that it's for the good and for God's purpose. They know it's God's plan. And it's been a team effort. And I'm so grateful for our girls and so grateful for what this has taught our girls, taught us.
Yeah, it seems like, too, we talk about the negative side, but the positive side far outweighs the negative, because they've learned to be compassionate and care about others outside of themselves. It's easy for anyone to get wrapped up in yourself, but when you're serving, you don't have time to be wrapped up in yourself because you want to serve. And then the Lord gives you joy back in that moment. And they have seen those rewards, and they have, sisters and one brother, because that was our one and only boy.
Wow.
That, yes, I've had a little brother before. I loved on him. I fed him bottles, there's so much more good out of it. And now they, say, particularly our oldest one, I'm going to be a foster parent. My future husband will know I am going to adopt kids, and I love that because, because they've been raised in it, they didn't know. Todd and I, weren't really exposed to it that much growing up, but the Lord gave us that desire. But now they've seen, okay, this is, I can do this too when I'm old enough. So it's awesome, the benefits that have come for it. They far outweigh the pain, the grief of the moment.
Yeah. And when you experience the pain and the grief, it opens up our understanding of God's goodness too, doesn't it? Like He draws near to the brokenhearted. That's what God's word says. And so we actually open ourselves up for more of Him when we allow ourselves to work for Him in ways that even cause us pain.
Yes, absolutely. We had a verse for Ashlyn, He healeth the brokenhearted. That was kind of what we clung to. And then when our first baby left from Job, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Like, each time there's kind of like a verse that's like, yep, that verse was for me. And we can cling to that for each child that has touched us in one way or the other. So it's awesome how God's word too speaks to you when it used to, you couldn't really relate to it necessarily, but then it's like, oh, now I see, what that verse means. Now I know true heartache and that sort of thing. So
I also love how you were so intentional in asking your daughters for their input and their yes or no. To give them that. I would guess that has a lot of reason to do with why they want to do it, or at least your oldest, because it wasn't forced on them. It was something that you invited them into the process all along and recognized the impact it had on them. I'm sure that was so life-giving to your kids.
Yes, I hope so. We call it a family ministry because, it is. You open your home and you let someone in, and so it was a ministry, and they have walked through it wonderfully right beside us, and
that's awesome.
It's been a blessing.
Todd, did you have anything to add?
I'm grateful. I think it was Gretchen's idea to make it the entire family, to make it intentional. It was going to be an entire family deal. It is whether you're intentional about it or not, but to be intentional and to explain the process to the girls. I mean, and explain the process with the kids, but also with the parents of the kids that come into our care. And this was a learning process for us, but we were also able to share with them that these parents are going through a hard time right now for whatever reason, and every situation is different. But to help them see a part of life on this earth that it's out there, it's reality. It doesn't necessarily make these aren't bad people, but the circumstances are tough, and we are doing our part to help them. And that's what this is all about, to help the entire family, help the child, help the parents. It's an entire goal, entire project. And, and whatever, they've made mistakes, they've made some bad decisions, but we still are called to love on these people and to take care of them and show them our love. And that's been huge for us. It's been a learning process for us, but tying the girls into that as well has taught them a lot of big life lessons that I hope will benefit them throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. So time went by for you guys. And you'll have to let us know how many kids came into your home. Well, tell me that first before I go on.
Well, we've only had a total of 10 over 10 years, which is very rare, but the ones that came stay for an extended period of time, so that kind of ate up the 10 years. It's not many kids. It wasn't that we were, taking 8 months off and keeping one for 2 months. They just came and
they hung around. In fact, some of them have really, really stayed. Your intention, a bunch of them. Your intention was not to adopt again, but God had a different plan. So talk about those kids and how adoption became part of the plan.
Absolutely. So yes, we never did plan on being an adoptive family. We really, our plan was we're going to foster, we're going to be a blessing, and then we're going to go back to our original 4. We're going to recoup and go on vacations, and then we'll do it again. Well, the Lord sent in 2004 a precious little blue-eyed 2-year-old walked right through the door, and she never left. So her family, was working to get her back. It did not work out, of course, through time. So 2.5 years later, we were able to adopt her. Again, not our plan, but, we had her since she was 2. We were not going to not adopt her once she became eligible because she, we were family she knew. So what do you have to add, Todd? Anything?
Adoption was not on our radar whatsoever. I didn't talk about it because we never considered it at all. But Isabel came and she took over from day one. And after that much time, the thought of having her start over again was not an option. And, she was part of our family. She took over from day one and she's still running the show. So
how old is she now?
Yeah.
Not quite.
She's 10.
She's 10.
Yeah.
So, and we still celebrate the day that she came to stay with us. On the night she came to stay, we were having this recipe called Creole rice. So it's like sausage and rice. And every year on that day, on her anniversary of her coming, she wants to eat Creole rice because we've kind of made it a big, deal that that's when you came into our family. So it's kind of nice because she knows that, it was important. It was life-changing to her and us and her bio family. I don't know if you want me to touch on the bio family at this point, but
I think at this point you don't need to right now. So we'll edit out a little bit of that. Let's keep going on, kind of share about how the other kids came, or just, even just sharing who they are as much as you want.
Right. So after we adopted Isabel, I was not ready to turn in our license. Todd, he was, because our house was full at the seams, and he's like, let's just, be done. I'm like, I don't know. I just don't want to, I'm just not ready yet. And so I said, well, let's just do respite care, which is babysitting for other foster families. And so I'm like, that way we can still have a part, but we're not doing the job
full time,
or not doing it full time. So we can cram all the kids in one bedroom for a weekend, let the guest fosters have the other room, and then we'll spread back out. Again, we had it all worked out in our minds. So one weekend they called and said, can you keep 3 little girls this weekend? We're like, sounds crazy, but sure, we'll do it. So our teenagers, cleared their schedules. I'm like, we're not going anywhere. We did go to church that Sunday morning, but I'm like, a small tornado is coming in the house, but we're going to get prepared. So but they were all excited because it was a 12-month-old, young 2-year-old, and then a 5-year-old. So, to have a baby around again sounds exciting. And so we cleared our schedules. They came. We had just a fun time loving on them. We were bonded pretty much instantly. And over the next 2 months, we actually were going out of town for a good bit, and we had kind of talked with the 4 of us and said, we wouldn't mind seeing them again, or I wonder how they're doing. But we were out of town, so it was kind of like, well, maybe we'll check on them. So we got back and said, I'm going to call the caseworker and just see how they are. And so before I could call the caseworker, she called us and said, would you like to keep the girls again this week? And I'm like, that'd be perfect. We were just talking last night, literally, we wondered how they were. So we're like, we're happy to have them. So again, clearing the schedule for the weekend to come. So that was on a Monday morning. Wednesday night, I was at church, I believe, and the foster mom called, and she said, I just wanted to let you know that we're turning in our license, and we wanted to give you the first opportunity to take, custody of the girls because you already have a connection with them. And so, Todd, you want to tell your part of the story when that call came in?
No, I don't want to. But, so we were at church, and so the choir, it was after church, and the choir was practicing, and I was back in the sound booth, and, Gretchen brought that back to me, and, I think she sent me a text with anyway, whatever. So I'm reading this, I'm in shock, and the choir is singing I have been blessed. And that's, one of my favorite songs. And so I read it and I looked up and I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. I mean, how could you not hear God when he delivers the message that way? So we have truly been blessed. So with that, there's no way to say no when you so clearly see God's hand in it. So they came and, it's, go ahead, guys, you take it back, babe.
Okay, so they came on that Friday. We picked them up from their daycare, and we went house hunting that weekend. So we house hunted with the 6 kids, the 6 girls, because we're like, we literally cannot live where we are. And I had asked the foster family, like, can we have to the end of December? Because we knew we wanted to move. We had Christmas prepared and ready for our family. And just, we had our full schedule booked, and they said, nope, we're done. It has to go. So we had 2 weeks to, prep. So we took all 6 kids house hunting that weekend.
And what were the ages of the kids at this point?
So, goodness, this was 2000. Sorry.
One of them was 13 months. The youngest was 13 months, maybe 14 months or so.
Yeah, she's wondering about the other one. So it was 1, 2, 5, and 6. Our other adopted would have been 6 years old. And then our other girls probably would have been 8 and 10, I think. Could be older. But yes.
The 1, 2, and 5 were coming to us. Yeah.
Right. So we did that. The Lord just touched our story so much. I mean, there was only like one house that would work, and of course it was out of budget. So we looked at it, and Todd does have his general contractor's license, so he sent a list of problems, and we're like, either you can take off for these problems, or you can put the price to this. And the guy's like, I'll put the price to that, just let it out of my hand. So it was like, the Lord put it within our budget. And we had another side of the story is we have friends that always wanted or liked our house that we were living in. So I called them up on that same Friday of the kids coming. I'm like, it's really random, but you've always said if we ever moved, you wanted to buy our house. And she's like, well, believe it or not, we just put a contract in. She's like, I hate that this has happened. I was like, I had no idea, hate we missed it, but whatever. So she calls me the Monday morning and said, you're not going to believe this, but the inspection on the house is terrible. We have the opportunity to back out of this if you're definitely going to sell us your house.
Wow.
So, within a weekend, we bought and sold. And so I have chill bumps, but when you just think of like, this is insanity that we're about to double the number of kids and bring 2 with diapers
Christmas
back
time.
in when we didn't. At Christmas time, yes.
We had people go out shopping for us. Went out shop because there's no way Rich could have done the shopping and survive. So we had people do shopping for us and bring the gifts over and wrap them, and it was phenomenal. We had a lot of friends that really. I don't have the words what our friends did for us there. So it was tremendous. Again, clearly God controlled. He took the details and ran with them because we were. We were just in survival mode, but God took care of everything else like he always
You offered
has.
your obedience and your availability, and then he worked in the people around you and gave them tasks to do and jobs to do. And that is the beauty of the body of Christ coming together like we're called to, is everyone has a part.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, and it was just awesome to see how even things like we didn't know we needed, people came in and filled that need and babysat. And, I was kind of stunned, honestly, that we were taking custody of these children. But it's like, the Lord's like, I know it's crazy, but I've got it. So I'm going to send this person to help you. And one of our friends said, I'll handle the gifts. And then she went out from her, little connections and had people sponsor her gifts and brought them to the house. And, but one of my friends, I was panicking. I mean, I was crying, like, what are we doing? I have to move this house. And I'm a very go-getter. I'm an organized person. I can do any project you give me. But standing in my living room that day, I could not put one item in a box because I was so overwhelmed. And my friend said, I've got you. And she came over and started packing my house,
Wow. So, even now that makes you emotional, doesn't it? That's, it's something I've heard all throughout your story is, I've got you. God's saying that. He's using his people to say that. And I hope that our listeners recognize this, that you aren't alone, number one, but also there is no task too small. If God's telling you to do something, do it, because you never know how much it can impact the one that he's using you to do it for. Your story tells us that.
Absolutely. I mean, people say, thank you. People say, I can't foster. Well, find a family that is. I promise you they will, welcome your help to walk alongside them. And, I didn't think I could foster either at one point in time. I didn't think I could adopt at one time. I didn't think I could raise 6 kids. And I'm not saying I'm doing it well, but we're hanging on over here by a shoestring. So, but the Lord says, I will take care of you, and he will equip you as you go. Which we often say the Lord tricked us, and I use that in quotes because we know he doesn't do that. But had DSS called me and said, will you take custody of 3 kids? I'd have been like, no, I'm not crazy. I'm not taking in 3 sisters at one time. But, he kind of tricked us. He goes, just keep them for a weekend and, let me know how you feel about them. We're like, okay, Lord, we see you. We see what you're doing. So never close your mind off to any little thing, because it can always lead to the next great thing that the Lord wants to do with you.
That's a good word right there. I think that you guys said it perfectly, and there's no task too small. If the Lord's calling you, that's the loud and clear message. Do it, because he has got you. Well, thank you guys so much for being on today. It's been a joy and a privilege to talk with you. Well, I hope today's episode was an encouragement to you wherever you are on this foster care journey. Now, we want you to stay connected, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Also, we have a ton of great content for you over at theforgotteninitiative.org. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time.